In the future, the United States has been destroyed by a terrible drought. There's no more water, and people are even willing to kill just to get some. Most people have already left the area, but the home family stays. The father, Ernest, believes that the plants will grow again if they can find water. He remembers when the land was green and alive, but his son, Jerome, was too young and doesn't remember those days. One day, two thieves try to break into a small building on Ernest's farm. They burn the lock to try to get inside. Ernest catches them in the act and starts shooting. One of the thieves tries to shoot back, but Ernest shoots and kills him first. The second thief gets scared and begs for his life. He says someone told him there was water there. He also says he needs to pee and reaches for his pants. But Ernest sees that he is reaching for a gun, so he shoots him too before he can do anything. Jerome watches everything from a distance. He tells Ernest that he could have helped, but Ernest only tells him to stop calling him by his name and to call him Dad instead. Then Ernest unlocks the small building. Inside, there's a water pump. Sadly, the pump doesn't work, so they don't get any water. That means they have to keep moving and force their mule to keep going, even without anything to drink. Later, they meet a group called the Watermen. These men control all the water in the area. They have a government deal that lets them take water from deep wells and sell it. Ernest gives them some supplies, and in return, they give him a little bit of water. Ernest warns Jerome to never make the Watermen angry because they are dangerous. They should just trade and leave as fast as possible. Ernest keeps trying to ask the Watermen to bring water to his farm, but they ask for too much money. On the way home, something terrible happens. Their mule falls to the ground and gets hurt really badly. It is suffering and in pain. Ernest takes his gun and shoots the mule to end its suffering. Jerome starts crying and says he could have done it himself. When they finally get back to the farm, Jerome's sister Mary gives them MREs, ready-to-eat meals. After that, she uses soil to scrub the dishes because there is no water. Ernest listens to the radio, and Jerome draws pictures of animals. These are the only hobbies they have left. Suddenly, Ernest hears a strange noise. He goes outside quickly and finds out that Mary has sneaked out of the house through her window. She went to see her secret boyfriend. The next day, Ernest and Jerome go to Sam's auction house. They want to buy a robot called Simulate Shadow, or Sim for short, to replace their dead mule. Sam's son, Flem, also wants the robot and fights them during the bidding. But in the end, Ernest wins the auction. This means he now owes even more money. After the auction, they go to the hospital to visit Catherine, the kid's mother. She can't walk because she had an accident. The hospital has a special machine that connects her body to wires and helps her walk. But the only way they can bring her home is to buy that machine, and it's very expensive. After spending a nice afternoon with Catherine, Ernest and Jerome go back home. On the road, they see Robbie and Suze with their baby. Ernest gets angry and calls them vultures. He thinks they're using the baby to make people feel sorry for them and give them help. He drives away without stopping. Later, they reach a gas station. After filling the gas tank, Ernest drinks a little water from the station to make the price even. Then, feeling bad, he takes some water back to Robbie and Suze. The couple has been thinking about selling their baby because they can't afford to take care of him. Ernest tells them not to do it. He promises he will help them get water. Sometime later, Flem comes to the home farm. It turns out that Flem is Mary's secret boyfriend. He asks Ernest if he can borrow Sim and promises to pay rent for it. But Ernest refuses. He says he'll only agree if Sam signs a paper to guarantee the deal. Flem gets mad and tells Ernest that he will never be able to grow anything on his land. Then Flem leaves. The next time Ernest and Jerome go to meet the Watermen, they arrive much faster because of Sim. Ernest begins talking to the Watermen and tries to convince them to install a water line to his farm. After that, he starts digging up his old water pump so that the Watermen can check it out. While they work, Ernest talks to Jerome and tells him he should go out more, meet people, maybe find a girl, or at least make some friends. But Jerome says he would rather stay and take care of the family. On the way home, they see Flem drive past them at very high speed. Later, back at the farm, Mary is washing clothes in a strange way by putting cleaning liquid inside the vacuum cleaner. Ernest arrives and tells her she's not allowed to leave the house anymore. Mary becomes very upset. She shouts that she is old enough to make her own decisions and do what she wants. As Ernest keeps saying he only wants to protect Mary, she shouts back that he doesn't care about her real dad and that he loves Flem instead. Then she tries to run away. She bumps into Jerome and asks him for money. That gives Ernest enough time to catch up and stop her. Mary starts crying and says that Ernest has failed their family. In response, Ernest locks her in the house and nails her window shut so she can't sneak out again. Sometime later, Ernest and Jerome wake up in the morning and find out that Sim is missing. Ernest immediately believes that Flem took it. He goes to Flem's house, but Sam tells him that Flem already left earlier that day. He got on a truck and went to the mountains. Then we learn something important. Ernest's farm used to belong to Sam. Flem is obsessed with that farm and the fact that his family lost it. Even though Sam thinks the land is dead and no amount of water will help it grow again, Flem can't let it go. Ernest decides to go to the mountains to find out what's going on. But when he gets there, someone knocks him out without warning. When he wakes up, it's already evening and he's at the waterman's camp. The watermen accuse him of stealing their supplies using Sim. Ernest says over and over that he didn't do it, but the leader, Caleb, doesn't believe him and attacks him. They get into a fight. After a lot of struggling, Ernest grabs Caleb's knife and then takes a rifle. He shoots the rifle into the air to scare everyone and keep them away from him. Then he runs away as Caleb yells threats at him. On the way home, Ernest finds Flem sleeping beside a campfire, with Sim and the stolen supplies right there. Flem was the one who took them and tried to make it look like Ernest was the thief. Ernest waits until morning. When Flem wakes up, Ernest is standing over him and pointing a rifle at his face. Ernest ties Flem to Sim, who is now loaded with the stolen supplies. They begin walking together under the hot sun, heading to the watermen to return the goods. As they walk, Flem keeps teasing and mocking Ernest by talking about Mary. To shut him up, Ernest pulls the rope, making Flem fall to the ground as punishment. After a while, both of them are extremely thirsty and tired. Flem convinces Ernest to stop and have a drink. But when they open the supplies, they discover it's alcohol, not water. Ernest starts drinking, and because of his addiction, he drinks too much. Flem pretends to drink too, but stays sober. Flem says that Caleb wants him dead, and that's why he stole Sim, just to survive. He even offers Ernest some money, but Ernest refuses because the whole story sounds suspicious. Ernest tries to stand up, but he's too drunk. He gets dizzy and stumbles. This was Flem's plan the entire time. He takes the chance to grab a rock and hits Ernest in the head. Ernest falls against a cliff, hits his head hard, and starts bleeding. As he passes out, he has a flashback of the car accident that hurt Catherine. We find out it happened because of his drinking. Later, Ernest wakes up again. This time, he is tied to Sim. Flem starts pouring more alcohol into his mouth and screams like a madman. After that, Flem goes back to the home farm. Mary sees him and quickly jumps on his bike. The two of them leave together. Meanwhile, Jerome gets really worried about his father. He decides to go search for him. By nightfall, he reaches the waterman's camp. The watermen tell him something shocking. His father died in an accident with a machine. During the funeral, Mary comes back. She and Jerome cry together. They both know they have to visit their mother soon to tell her the sad news about Ernest. Flem picks them up in his truck and brings them back to the farm. Once they arrive, Jerome becomes furious. He grabs a hammer and starts smashing Sim. Flem rushes over to stop him. Flem tells Jerome that grief is hard and painful, but they can't destroy their only source of income. Then he offers to take Ernest's place and become the new head of the family. He says he wants to help. Jerome is still shocked, but then Flem reveals something else. Mary is pregnant. Flem says he has big plans for the farm. Jerome is unsure, but eventually agrees to give Flem a chance. Later that afternoon, Flem takes some supplies to the waterman. He talks to Caleb and asks him to put a water pipe into their farm. At first, Caleb says no, but then Flem turns the tables on him. He says that Caleb might be blamed for Ernest's death because Ernest's body was found with Caleb's knife and rifle. Caleb gets scared. He doesn't want to get into trouble, so he agrees to send water to the home family farm. A few days later, the new water pump is finally installed at the farm. Flem works very hard from morning until night to plant and grow wheat. The fields are watered using sprinklers. For the first time in a long while, the family is able to take real showers again. Some weeks pass, and one day Jerome is surprised to see a small green leaf on the ground. Over time, more and more plants grow, and soon the entire land is full of beautiful crops. To celebrate this success, Flem and Mary get married. As a sign of their love, they tattoo each other's initials onto their hands. During the wedding party, Flem drinks alcohol and can't stop thinking about Ernest's death. A couple of days later, Sam shows up at the farm with two men from the bank. They tell Flem that Ernest's debt is very large, and now that Ernest is gone, Flem has to pay it. To look tough, Flem revs his bike and scares the horses. But Sam tells him to stop acting like that. He explains that nobody ever wanted to buy the land before. Ernest only stayed because he refused to leave, not because the land was valuable. But now, with the new water supply and the crops, the bank sees it as valuable again. So Flem must pay the debt if he doesn't want to lose the farm. That night, Flem puts Sim on his truck and picks up Robbie and his baby. He lies to Robbie and says they're just going to check prices and ask around. But instead, Flem secretly sells the baby without Robbie's permission. Robbie becomes terrified and demands his child back. The buyers pull out guns and start shooting. Robbie is killed. The buyers also shoot at Flem, who fires back while running away. In the chaos, Flem leaves Sim behind. Sim gets damaged during the shootout. Because of this, its system activates a return mode that sends it back to its original factory. The next day, Flem goes to the bank and pays off Ernest's debt using the money he got from selling the baby. He lies to Mary and Jerome, saying he sold Sim to Robbie. Meanwhile, Sim arrives in the city. Calvin, the person who built Sim, finds it and checks the robot's information. He discovers the farm's contact and makes a phone call. Jerome answers and starts getting suspicious. He runs to the local market and finds Flem talking to Suze. Suze is holding a doll and pretending it's her real baby. Jerome notices this and tries to talk to them, but Flem quickly takes Suze away before Jerome can say anything. Later at home, Jerome asks Flem what really happened to Robbie. Flem says Robbie ran off with Sim and abandoned his family. Jerome doesn't believe him. He tells everyone he's going to visit his mother, but actually, he takes a bus to the border to find the truth. When he arrives at the border, the guards stop him because he's a minor and doesn't have a guardian. Just then, a girl named Anna approaches him and offers to help him cross over for a price. Jerome agrees. Anna hides him inside a truck full of chickens. In just a couple of hours, they reach the city. Jerome is amazed because it's his first time seeing a place like this. He meets up with Anna again, and she takes him to the factory. But she only takes half the money he offered. She tells him the return trip is a scam. He doesn't need help going back since no one will stop him from leaving. Before Anna leaves, Jerome asks her if she ever met a man named Ernest, but she doesn't recognize the name. Later, Jerome meets Calvin at the factory. Calvin shows him all of Sim's functions. He tells Jerome that Sim's eyes are actually cameras, made to record everything for reforestation work. That means Sim has recorded everything it has ever seen. Calvin teaches Jerome how to use the footage and gives him some privacy. Jerome starts watching the videos. He becomes emotional when he sees his father again. But then his sadness turns into horror. He sees that Flem was the one who killed Ernest. Flem had tied Ernest to Sim and sent the robot toward the waterman's camp, making it look like an accident. The footage shows everything. Jerome breaks down, crying in the middle of the office. That same evening, it begins to rain at the farm, for the first time in over 10 years. Jerome returns home soon after, but he acts normal. He casually asks Flem how he got Sim back. Flem is confused. He checks the barn and is shocked to see Sim standing there, undamaged. Flem nervously says that Robbie must have returned the robot out of guilt. A few days later, Jerome finally visits Catherine for real. He promises her that he will take care of her, just like Ernest did. One afternoon, Flem and Jerome go hunting to protect their crops from wild animals. Flem misses every shot and gives the rifle to Jerome, blaming the gun for not working. Jerome is very tempted to shoot Flem then and there. But instead, he shoots and kills a deer, proving that the gun works fine. It's Flem who can't shoot. When they return home, Jerome hides the rifle in his room. During lunch, Jerome tells Flem that Robbie called and is looking for him. This makes Flem very nervous, and he snaps, accusing Jerome of lying. Mary scolds Flem for his bad behavior. Jerome says again that he's telling the truth. Flem storms out of the room, angry. The next day, Flem receives a letter that looks like it came from Robbie, but it was actually written by Jerome. The letter asks Flem to meet at the cliffs because Robbie needs help. Before he leaves, Flem looks for the rifle. Jerome tells him that he took it to the shop to get fixed, since Flem said it wasn't working. Flem doesn't want to get caught, so he pretends to believe the story. He even apologizes for his outburst at lunch. Then he grabs a knife and heads out to the cliffs, bringing Sim with him. When he gets there, he starts calling for Robbie. Suddenly, Flem falls into a hidden pit and breaks both his legs. He screams in pain and begs Sim to help, but the machine doesn't understand. Just then, Jerome appears. He is standing at the edge of the pit, holding a rock. He doesn't say anything, he just stares. Flem realizes that Jerome knows the truth. Flem begs for mercy, but Jerome keeps watching silently, letting him suffer in the hot sun. Eventually, Flem starts shouting again, begging Jerome to think about Mary and the baby. He goes into a long speech talking about accidents and how sorry he is. But instead of making things better, his words make Jerome even more angry. Finally, Jerome picks up the rifle and shoots Flem, killing him. When Jerome returns home, he doesn't tell Mary what really happened. He lets her believe that Flem just left them. Thanks to the money from the farm's crops, the siblings can now afford real food. They also agree it's finally time to buy the walking machine so their mother, Catherine, can come live with them again. Jerome erases all the video footage from Sim. He is ready to begin a new chapter in their lives.